Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cinema Savvy, and welcome back to another review of another new episode of Doctor Who. I swear, the gaps between these weeks, I don't understand how time works at this point in time. Whether it's going through these episodes, how fast we're going through them, or this episode, it's absolutely crazy. Once again, my name is Tay. I'm joined today by Aaron. Say hi, Aaron.
Hi, hi everyone. It literally does feel like it was just the other day we were talking about Boom.
Doesn't feel like a week ago.
No.
It really doesn't. And I thought we peaked in the series with Boom. Wow, we're in for a treat for this week. I know we were given a bit of pre-context with this last week, and I said that Russell T kind of said it was his favorite story he'd ever written, or is one of his best stories ever written. I want to go straight off the bat and give my initial first impression. I think he was understanding it. This is a fantastic episode.
Yeah.
And we're going to go into huge depths over this episode as we go through. We want to hear your thoughts on Doctor Who below. We want to hear your thoughts on 73 Yards because this is a very interesting episode. This is an episode that people are going to talk about for a long time and try and kind of splice up and, try and dissect. And I'd be very interested to see kind of how it has a effect on the larger picture of Who as far as, where the season finale goes and everything like that. But this episode is less about that. This episode is a very personal story, and one that we don't get very often, but one that we're definitely going to be discussing about today in the form of Dr. Light stories. So we'll go into that in a bit as well. So for those who have seen the episode or those who are just watching the review, this is a spoiler-filled episode, and we're going to go into depth with it. But the premise of the episode is landing on the Welsh coast, the Doctor and Ruby embark on the strangest of journeys of their lives. In a rain-lashed pub, the locals sit in fear of an ancient legend come to life. That is the biggest line of bull I think IMDb has ever spouted to throw people off the scent. That is not what this episode is about at all.
No.
Could they have got further away from the actual, what the episode was about?
As you were reading that, I'm just like, hang on, is this for something completely different?
They've clearly put that on there to go okay, guys. This is what you think the episode is going to be about, but it's not about that.
No.
This episode is Russell T Davis's Doctor Who universe follow-up to Years and Years. This is a episode where we see Millie Gibson pretty much be the only character that really matters in the entire episode, as she acts her way kind of out of the screen and shows kind of a journey through life, a full life cycle from young to death in this episode, which you don't really see in Doctor Who. You see I think there's a few examples of, characters who we see aging and, we see those setups and stuff like that. But this is a very interesting episode where we get to see basically Millie's life of Ruby go all the way through this episode. This episode actually opens very interestingly with no title sequence at all. Did that catch you off guard when you first saw it?
I'm going to be brutally honest. I was paying attention, but I didn't, for some reason, mentally didn't clock it until I saw people mentioning it afterwards, and then I had to go back and look at it, and I was like, yeah, that is weird, but I totally understand it. It's a choice that I can kind of get behind, considering how the episode goes.
I clocked it straight away, and knowing what was said about the episode before the episode came out, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, this shit's about to go down. I was like, this episode's gonna be, they've done that for a reason. They've done it for more impact.
Yeah.
To put you straight into the story and have no breaks at all in between.
Yeah.
So I caught onto it straight away. It's a fascinating episode. We've had Doctorless episodes. We're going to talk about Doctorless episodes first, Doctor Light episodes first, because they were first really coined for the term after Blink came out, where Stephen Moffat said, "Oh, it's a Doctor Light episode. It's an episode where the Doctor is not really present," and that's kind of where the term came from. But past that, we've actually had examples of Doctor Light episodes before then. We've also had examples after Blink, where the Doctor hasn't been a crucial part to the plot, or has only been in the episode for a short amount of time, or hasn't had a major effect on the story. And with these kind of Doctor Light episodes, I've got them listed down here, or at least the ones that are recognized as Doctor Light episodes. We're going to rank them. here on the stream tonight. So we'll go through them first. Should we go with our least favorite, because I get the feeling that's probably going to be the same.
Yeah.
Out of all of them, is it Love and Monsters?
Yeah. No. I actually used to like this episode when I was younger, but like the more I rewatch it, the more it's just kind of. I mean, I'm probably going to be one of the first people to say this. It's not an awful episode. It's just like below average, if that makes sense. Like there are much worse Doctor Who episodes out there, but I just think for what it could have been, it's just a bit lackluster.
It's one of those episodes where, you know, I wasn't the biggest fan of it at the time. I know that it was a writing story and stuff like that, but yeah, it's definitely my bottom. I'm now going to rattle through mine because I'm intrigued to see what you think of my list. So next up we have The Big Bang, the finale with Matt Smith's, was it first season?
Yeah, series 5.
So forgettable. It's such a forgettable episode. I can tell you that River's in it at some stage, isn't she? And there's a Dalek in a museum. Apart from that, I could not tell you the plot of the episode at all. That was Moffat going a bit too far. Then I've got Flatline, which I think is actually a fantastic standalone episode. And the only reason why I put it down there is because it's really hard to rank it anywhere else along this kind of with what is in front of it. Then I've got The Girl Who Waited, because I really enjoyed that kind of. It was kind of the start of the end of, you know, Amy and Rory actually having trust and faith in the Doctor, and they explored that later on in the God Complex, which I think is one of my favorite episodes from that run. So yeah, I really enjoyed that kind of setup in the episode of The Girl Who Waited. Then I've actually got a 2-place tie for second place. I've got Turn Left, and I've got this episode, 73 Yards, because I really enjoyed this. And I know it's recency bias, but I've seen it twice now. And we're going to talk about the story in a second. We do want to just kind of get this out of the way first and talk about kind of the concept of a Doctor Light episode. But Turn Left is a fantastic one because it explores a companion dealing without the Doctor and having to get through life, but still kind of having the memories and experiences of the Doctor and trying to apply that throughout the entire thing. And, you know, at least having that journey and understanding that they are meant for something more. With Donna kind of not really having the memories of the Doctor, but at least having kind of Rose come in and explain things and kind of get her to understand that she is important in the universe. With 73 Yards, we get the Doctor abandoning Ruby, and then the story of Ruby basically dealing with being stalked by an entity over time, knowing she has a purpose, knowing that she's been opened up to the universe, and dealing with abandonment, which is the entire basis of her story. And then the one we got Blink, because it's Blink. But, you know, what's your list?
I mean, mine is kind of similar to yours, but I feel like I've swapped a couple round, kind of hearing yours play out. So bottom is Love and Monster. Next one from the bottom, purely, and I was saying this to Tate before we started recording, purely because I don't really remember it that much. I presume this would change on a rewatch, is The Girl Who Waited. Because I watched the show continuously, but there's like a gap between from series 6 to series 8 and 9. Everything kind of merges into one. I was following the show still, but I feel like I loved series 5. It then kind of went into this thing where like all the episodes kind of mentally blur into one, and then it picks up from 10. So that's the whole reason. That's the second to last one. Next, this is the problem, because all the episodes from here on I do legitimately like. I just feel bad putting this one down here. Is Turn Left, but it has grown on me. It has grown on me quite a bit, because I remember not being a massive fan of it when I first saw it back in 2009. But the more I watch it, the more I appreciate what it's doing. And again, you might ask me on a different day and it might go higher. So do bear that in mind and don't come for me in the comments. So Turn Left, then The Big Bang, because I prefer the setup in the Pandorica Opens, and it is a rather lackluster season finale, but I do still like certain elements of it, and I think it is quite satisfying to some extent. Some things in it are quite stupid, but other things in it are quite satisfying. Then we have, I'd probably have to go with Flatline, because it's I've always just loved that episode just for doing its own thing. It can actually be quite creepy at times, that episode, and I just really like it. Plus, the Doctor in a tiny TARDIS is still a hilarious image. Then I'll go with 73 Yards and then Blink. Blink has to be at the top because it was one of the first to do it. It's a brilliant example of what you can do without the Doctor. And
unique monster creation. Probably the most iconic monster of New Who being introduced there.
Yeah, very much so. And I think it really sold a very simple concept in a very unique way, because I think at the time we were so used to the Doctor and the Companion in a story and they go on an adventure. And this felt like it kind of was a shift and it was being a bit more experimental, and I really like what it did with that. And 73 Yards does feel very similar in that sense to Blink. It's got certain horror elements that it kind of leans into, like Blink does. It tries a very high concept sort of sci-fi supernatural like concept and story, and I just really like what it does. And that again, that's kind of why I like 73 Yards as well. And it's growing on me. I liked it when I first saw it at the weekend, but it is growing on me very quickly. Like this might be an all-timer. I'm not 100% sure, but it is very, very good. It's very well written.
I've seen it twice now, and I watched it. I watched it on Saturday, and then I was like, "This is so good. I need to watch it again." So I watched it again on Sunday. I'm probably going to watch it again before the finale. And as much as I enjoyed Boom and watching Boom twice, I'm okay and set with Boom now.
Yeah,
I've seen all I need to see. I've picked up on things that I needed to pick up on and stuff like that. With this episode, I feel like there's so much to explore and so much more to kind of read into and so much more to look at. I mean, for starters, we've got kind of the concept of stepping on a fairy circle and things go wrong, which I think is fantastic. I mean, they haven't explored that kind of thing before, and now they're moving more into the supernatural kind of side of things. I really enjoy the fact that they've got that involved. Then you have an entire episode where Millie Gibson, who she isn't an old actress, like she's not even 20 yet, and she's been thrown into the limelight, and she's basically been given an episode purely because Ncuti couldn't meet the filming arrangements. He was still filming Sex Education. And we have an entire episode where she is dealing with the one thing that has happened to her for her entire life, and that is abandonment. And I mean, this episode has so many different beautiful lines in it to do with kind of her dealing with her abandonment, and so many heartbreaking things. Even from kind of the idea of the people in the pub calling her crazy and kind of, kicking her out and stuff like that, just because she was terrified, kind of, taking the piss out of her, all the way down to her mum abandoning her and leaving her, Kate Lethbridge-Stewart abandoning her and leaving her, all the way throughout the entire story, she is being abandoned, she is being left, she is being kind of haunted by this mysterious figure that will always stay 73 yards from her. And the beauty of this story, and this is kind of, I've read so much into this story over the past week, looking at kind of different people's interpretations of it and everything like that. And the beauty of the story, I think, is because the end of the story, or at least kind of her dealing with, I'm trying to remember his name, Roderick William, right?
Yeah.
She's able to accept, the abandonment, accept, the person who's keeping people distance from her, to help her and aid her, or at least her to kind of, find peace, do something good for the world. She is still that person who wants to go out there and, save people. She's still that person who wants to go out there and, do those things. And she's found a way of kind of accepting that. And the line at the end, her talking about being abandoned for years, but never being alone, like she's had someone with her in her entire life, is so well written and so well put together. And the way, I don't know about you, but the way I saw the ending was her paying her life was her penance, kind of for the Doctor stepping on the circle, and she's able to go back and fix it on the second kind of time around. Which I think it's fantastic. It's brilliant sci-fi writing. It's just brilliant writing in general.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think, especially in hindsight, when I think about the episode more, there are so many ways in which this very simple concept could have been done in like a more over dramatic way, or a more cheesy a way, and it could have ruined the effect of what the message of the story is trying to be. But because it plays it very straight and very I don't know what the word is, because it plays it
like a horror. It doesn't
yeah
no, there are a few moments of comedy, but it really does play it like it's haunting her.
Yeah, it plays it like a straight up drama with a lot of horror elements in it. And I've seen a lot of people compare it to the film It Follows, and the more I see that, the more I can actually understand that comparison in especially in the sense that like there's something constantly stalking you, whether it's in your peripheral or something. And yeah, I just again going back to the whole thing of the execution of this episode could have made or break the concept itself. I definitely think there's a lot of lines, especially during that conversation with Kate Lethbridge Stewart, where it just feels I don't know how to word. I'm kind of speechless by this episode because I don't know how to kind of form it into words. But like the writing is just so good because there's so many ways in which Davis kind of alludes to stuff, but then he says a lot without saying that much, if that makes sense. He does a very good job of trying to tell this whole story. I'm butchering my words here, but
yeah,
this episode was just so good. I can't quite form coherent sentences.
No, I think what helps is the fact that he's so good at world building, and he's got this entire series under his belt to have an episode for himself, where he's kind of writing his own kind of personal story and taking the experiences of his other TV shows. Since the last time he was on Doctor Who, he's gone and written It's a Sin and Years, two fantastic award-winning shows, which I implore people to go and watch. But he's taken those experiences and he's brought them back to Who. He's brought them back to sci-fi. And in this episode, you just see dialogue that could be ripped from kind of, one or the other of them, with their own experiences and with their own things. And, for Millie to take that on as an actress coming into Who as a new person and have this entire episode dedicated to just herself being the lead character on screen. There's always an episode where you look at the companion and you go, yeah, you are the Doctor's companion. You are a fantastic person. The universe revolves around you. And I hadn't seen it so far. Not yet. And this episode was the one where she went full girl boss and got it done. Like, this is the episode where she kind of proved her mettle. And it's a shame that they gave the TARDIS key to her so early on, because this would be the perfect episode for her to be finally granted the TARDIS key. Like, even if it was something that the Doctor didn't even know about, like, they go back to the TARDIS after not stepping on the fairy circle and there's suddenly a key stuck in the door, and it's the TARDIS kind of accepting her because she's been on that journey. That would have been great. But the fact that, in this episode, she has TARDIS key, it isn't working. The Doctor's gone and she just had to kind of survive on her own. And it's such a great concept and it's so well put together. And yeah, this episode is the best episode of the series so far. I'll go ahead and say it. I know I said that last week with Boom, but the fact that they're getting gradually better is good. Don't know about Dot and Bubble next week, but well, at least we've got this one. At least we've got this to bank on. But no, I thought this episode was absolutely fantastic, and it does rest on the shoulders of Millie, and it rests on the shoulders of the writing team, and fantastic work all round.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, because I think I even said this last week, is that like I was like in the first two episodes and even the Christmas special, I was liking the banter between the two of them, but I wasn't sold on their relationship as the Doctor and a companion. But then with Boom, I was sold on that relationship a bit more. And on this one, I am more sold on her as a character. Like, the last episode sold me on their friendship. This one sold me on her. And I'm completely won over now. I'm still want to see how they build on their relationship more in the future episodes. Because again, like we said last week, because this series feels like it's going through everything at a rate of knots, we're not getting those breather moments where we just kind of sit and appreciate the friendship that they have. But I really thought she, again, because that's another thing, I wasn't necessarily sold on Millie Gibson's performances so far in the series, but this one has just won me over completely. she really does sell this. Even I've seen loads of people complaining online that like they just aged her by making her hair longer and putting glasses on her, which I do understand, but like at the same time she kind of sells the fact that she's grown older. Like there's that kind of aged wisdom that she kind of carries on the more the episode goes on, and I think she does a really good job of selling that.
Yeah, but also, you see it in the scenes where, she's going on the many dates, that tetchiness around, still being haunted by the woman in the background, who was a fascinating character, a brilliant Doctor Who entity or monster. I know that we'll probably never revisit this one again. This is probably a one and done. But what a brilliant concept of, what was it? Russell T was stood on a pier somewhere, looked out, couldn't quite make out someone's face from a distance, and thought, yeah, that's a pretty good distance for this story, and kind of measured that out and said, oh, about 73 yards, far enough in the distance to see a blurry face, but not really able to make it out.
I think he said in interviews that he had to walk up and down a pier in Wales just to actually gauge how long 73 yards was, and he kept going up and down, and then when he got to it, it was like, yeah, that's a good amount. Yeah.
But the woman in the episode is fantastic and terrifying in the fact that she doesn't do anything that is considered like not completely abnormal, not horrific. She does something that's very kind of mundane and ordinary, kind of these symbols and like holding the palm out and stuff like that. But it's enough to make people around her terrified. And it's not a jump scare. It's the idea of someone always being there. And that's a brilliant specific part of horror that, you've got the two ends of the spectrum. You've got the weeping angels whose mere purpose is to jump scare you. That is the whole point of weeping angels. It is there to be in a distance and then be close. Whereas this one, it's almost like the exact opposite. This one is the one that will never quite catch you. And it's never going to catch you, but it's always going to be there in the back of your mind. Like she said, even when she's sleeping, like she knows it's there, and she won't get on a plane. She won't go, she won't fly, or she won't take a boat because she feels attached to it. She doesn't want to hurt it. And that's kind of the awkward and horrific feeling of, being pursued and being stalked and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I think one thing that really makes this episode work with the woman in the distance, and I think it's something that Doctor Who should do more of, because they don't do it that often, but when they do, it really benefits the episode that it do it in. And that is adding a sense of ambiguity to stuff, because this episode does not explain how the rules work or how the woman works. And I actually really like that. And I think when Doctor Who has like a very singular high concept episode, like say, for example, Midnight, you never know what that entity is. You never know what it was there for, what it was trying to do. It just kind of comes in, wreaks havoc, and then gets released by the end of the episode. And you get a similar thing with this. You never know what the woman says. You don't know what the hand gestures are. There are so many things in the episode that still leave you question, and I can understand why some people would be annoyed with that. But for me, because the concept is the core thing keeping this episode driving forward, along with Millie Gibson's performance and the writing, I actually really like the ambiguity of that. And I kind of wish Doctor Who would do it more often. It doesn't need to do it all the time, but I love it when you just get a singular episode where something bizarre happens, and sometimes not even the Doctor can understand what just happened. I think you even get it with the Beast two-parter in series 2, where like he's encountered this thing that looks like the devil. But even when Rose asks him, he's like, I'm not actually 100% sure what we just faced, but I'm glad it's gone. And again, I kind of wish Doctor Who would do more of that, because it's
ambiguity in sci-fi is brilliant.
yeah. Again, you don't need to overdo it, because if you overdo it, it just kind of seems like you don't know what you're doing, so you're just kind of making stuff up on the spot. But when it's done right, and Doctor Who knows how to do it right occasionally, you get moments of brilliance like this, like with Blink, like with Midnight.
Yeah. It makes Doctor Who scarier for the episodes where, You know, it has a bit of mystery. When the
Yeah.
Doctor's able to dissect and, you know, take down the monsters, it's fun to watch. And, you know, you kind of expect it every single week. The Doctor is the smartest person in the room, smartest person in the universe, will always have an answer for everything. So when you come to episodes like this, where maybe the Doctor doesn't have an answer,
Yeah.
or maybe, you know, there isn't meant to be an answer and the viewers are left puzzled because the Doctor hasn't come in and explained things, it makes people more curious. It gets people going to message boards, and it's where I've spent this entire kind of end of the weekend just living just off, you know, people discussing this episode, and it's got such positive feedback. Apparently the viewer ratings are also up from week one.
Well, that's good to
quite a
hear.
bit. I can't remember if it was by like 2.1 million up from week one. So people are, I guess, with the success of Boom and people finding out it's a good episode, people hearing about the Devil's Cord also being, you know, quite a fun episode to watch. I think people are starting to click onto it, and especially with this episode, this really does feel like a kind of old school Doctor Who episode, just without the Doctor in it.
Yeah.
I think people are starting to get more into the series and everything like that. So it's fascinating how it's kind of evolved in that way. But like I've said, I've always liked the ones where they leave a bit of a mystery behind and a bit of the puzzle unsolved, so you can solve it at a later point. And, you know, with this episode, it isn't just about it being a solitary adventure and it's being placed into there. Of course, we're in New Who, so everything is connected, especially in this shortened series. We have a few things here. We've got Caleb Bridge-Stewart coming back, which is always fantastic, you know, to see Unit come in and stuff like that. And I mean, fascinating kind of storylines that come with, you know, Unit and their kind of influence over the series and stuff like that. Gemma Redgrave's fantastic, has been since she's taken over the role. And we're going to see her towards the end of the series as well. I'm sure of it. We get the first reappearance since the fourth wall break of Mrs. Flood.
Yeah.
Which will always spark up theories.
And we get Susan Twist again.
We get Susan Twist with lines of dialogue and Ruby actually recognizing her and going, "Oh, do you know what? Never mind, different person." You're teasing us there, Mr. Russell T. You know,
yeah. The fact that for the commentary track on Boom, he very specifically was like, "Oh yeah, she was just an actress we kept using because we ran out of actors."
Liars.
And then that happens the very next episode. I'm just like,
you're lying through your teeth, like.
Yeah.
So you ran out of actors, you know, on your multiple different shoots across the country in different points in time.
Yeah.
Like, and this would have been one of the first ones to film because Shooty was still filming Sex Ed. So, you know,
the fact that line's there is even more like obvious now. If that was one of the first episodes they filmed, oh god, what are you doing to us, Russell?
This is just like, so she's clearly a character who means something. You can't even lie about it. She's already in the trailer for the next episode. Like, you know, she's there. I can't wait for it to turn up in like the Bridgerton episode and just be like, "Oh, this wine is fantastic." Just sound about going, like, it's Susan Twist. Like,
see, I'd be more surprised at this point if she doesn't show up. Like if she doesn't show up in a singular episode, I'll be like, okay, what's going on here?
I mean, she's been in every episode since the Church on Ruby Road, right?
Yeah, because I don't think I know she appeared in Wild Blue Yonder, but I don't think she was in the Giggle. But yeah, she's been in it since every episode since the Christmas one. Yeah.
Fascinating. Any theories on Susan Twist? Because the TV theory is an interesting one. It fits in with Mrs. Flood as well.
I don't really have any major theories. I've seen some crazy theories because I think we mentioned this last week about the whole trickster theory, which I'm still kind of on board with. But I've seen some really bizarre out there ones saying that Susan Twist is the trickster, and I'm like, no. I don't think they're going to go that far with it. But at this rate, I think I even said this last week as well. At this rate, I don't know where it's going. I'm just going to see where it goes. There's only so much I can kind of theorize and ponder for the rest of the series, and then be proven completely wrong the next episode.
Would anyone have even noticed if her name wasn't Susan Twist? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, someone went on IMDb and was like, hang on a minute. What's her name again?
So, have you heard of the it's a TV show theory?
No, this one's new to me.
So, so the title card thing, the episode title reveal for The Legend of Ruby Sunday
Yeah,
is set in a TV station.
yeah.
Ruby's first appearance within the series was on the Davina McCall TV episode thing, wasn't it? Mrs. Flood directly addressing the camera could be her being aware that they're in a TV show. And I've seen a lot of theories going around that they believe that they are in a TV show, and that would fit into the theme of Susan Twist being an extra that's just used over and over again.
Okay.
Which would be very interesting commentary, and it'd be very interesting to see who put them in the TV show. If that's the way they're playing it, because I don't think they could get away with calling it a TV show and then having that. And that would make sense with all of the musical numbers being thrown in so far and all of those weird move towards kind of less of sci-fi and more of kind of,
supernatural
and fantasy. Then being placed into a TV show and then them realizing they got to get out of the TV show would be a very interesting concept because,
Yeah, that might explain the Bridgerton episode as well. Like, whatever the entity is that's doing it.
They mention it in the trailer. This is so Bridgerton. It's self-aware. So
yeah, I mean, I would like that. That is a really interesting theory, and I could. That makes more sense for specific episodes. But at the same time, if that theory is right, it kind of lessens the weight of an episode like 73 Yards and Boo. Like, there are episodes it works in the context of, like Space Babies and The Devil's Chord and, the Christmas special. But then there are others which are their own self-contained things, like this one. And it's a nice self-contained episode. And by putting that theory in, it might ruin it, which I really don't want it to do. If they fully commit to it, then I can see it working. Because if it ends up being this, like, the first thing I'm thinking of here, because I've recently finished X-Men 97, is the character Mojo, where everything is like an overdone TV show. Like, he puts real people in the scenario of like a TV show or a video game just for his enjoyment, and he has complete control over that. So if they go for something along those lines where it's like an entity that's similar to the Toy Maker and Maestro and just likes putting people into a TV show scenario, I think that would be a genuinely really interesting way to do it. Because out of all the episodes, that and the last one are the ones that, like, a lot of people don't really know what.
Well,
the plot is.
I've like I said, I've been on Doctor Who forums all this week. One of the big things about last episode with Virada Seifu coming in, being the new companion, but not playing Mundy Flynn, could be leading into that theory. She was a character on the TV show, and then they actually find her in real life next series.
Yeah,
as she's a different character. There's a few things leading to it, and with this episode, I think someone was we're going into the tin hat territory here, but someone's saying that Mrs. Flood saying, "Oh, this is nothing to do with me," is the fact that it's not her story that she has any influence in, so she's just out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting concept. I wouldn't put it past Russell T Davies to do kind of such a wild concept like that.
Yeah.
But very interesting to see kind of if that plays out.
He's sorry, I was just going to say he's even kind of admitted this in interviews. Pretty much since the Toy Maker's come and gone, it's kind of opened the floodgates for literally anything to happen.
Yes.
And he's he's made that aware in interviews that, like, right, because he's now kind of broken the rules of what can and can't happen. Literally anything could be on the horizon, and I do like that, but at the same time, like we just said, does worry me a tiny bit.
A little bit. Interesting. So just going to the end of the episode, because we do get the full circle closing. We do also get a character that I feel like is going to come back. Surely we're going to get more of Roger Ap Gwilliam in the future as kind of this derailed prime minister who, to be fair, is a one policy man. He just wants to bomb things. It's one of those things where you get these politicians. We've got an election coming up soon in the UK where there's going to be so many different policies thrown out there, and certain things, like conscripting kids to national service and stuff like that are going to be thrown out there. At least Roger's just straight on to the point. He just wants a nuke, and he wants to nuke something. Like he doesn't care how he gets around it. Horrific person, but policy-wise, it's very straightforward. He's literally telling the country, "Hey, everyone, I just want to nuke something. Are you okay with that?" And they voted him in as prime minister. They're like, "Yeah, sure, mate, go for it. Follow your dreams."
Yeah, to be honest, in the context of this episode, I kind of thought he was a one and done character, but the fact that the Doctor makes reference to him being a future prime minister and knowing how the episode ends and it's reverted back, we've kind of closed the loop, so to speak, means he's still going to end up being prime minister at some point in the future. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's going, because I'm pretty sure when they were filming the series, I don't know if it was Dot and Bubble or one episode, but there was an episode with his posters up around everywhere. And I'm pretty sure there was a shot that they were filming that wasn't used in 73 yards. I might be completely wrong and getting it confused with the filming, but
maybe like an episode in the future at some point.
Like I can see it. I don't know why I can see it somehow tying into the series finale, not necessarily Legend of Ruby Sunday, but
more of Empire of Death.
Yeah, again.
Well, Empire of Death could be set in the future. You never know. It could be him trying to press the bomb, and that's kind of, that brings on the apocalypse. And we know that Maestro wanted, the nuclear annihilation because of the sound waves that come with it or something like that. So that could be a lead on to that.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that hint, especially with the teasers they released for the episodes, as well as the just the trailer in general. There's that shot of like people running in the street, and there's a massive cloud of dust coming from somewhere in a city, and like that might be a bomb. I mean, it probably is something else, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's like a giant bomb going off. Now with the context of what this politician is.
I mean, we could be getting all the puzzle pieces here.
Yeah. We may have just debunked the whole of this series of Doctor Who in one episode.
The second they say Mad Jack is unbound in the finale, that's when things are starting to happen.
Yeah.
But anyway, final thoughts in the episode, because I mean, for me, it's the best episode of the series so far.
Yep.
We've talked about, both of us have ranked it as like our second favorite Doctor Light episode as well. Currently, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. I'm pretty much in agreement. I thought Boom was a high point, but 73 yards has just kind of knocked it straight out of its place. Because the more I think about Boom, I love a lot of elements about that episode, but I'm starting to find more cracks in it the more I think about it. Whereas 73 yards is just, it's well written, it's well directed, it's well performed. It's just a really good standalone episode.
Yeah, I completely agree. And yeah, I'd love for them to explore a concept similar to this again. Not maybe in the Doctor Light concept. I just love to see a concept of actually seeing people age.
Yeah.
It's something we don't really see in a time travel show. We don't see people age quite often.
Yeah.
And I think it's fantastically done with kind of the consequences of time being explored. And that is definitely what's seen here. We see Ruby go through her entire life. And once again, I'll bring it back to that a phenomenal quote from the episode of her being abandoned her entire life, but never being alone. Is so well written, so beautiful, and fantastic. Anyway, we want to hear people's thoughts on this episode because we loved it. It's the highest rated episode of the series so far, across kind of the internet and stuff like that. People have been absolutely flooding into this one. I haven't seen a single negative comment on this episode yet.
I've seen a few people that have been a bit iffy about, like, I think the general consensus is like most people liked it, but I've seen a lot of people trying to like really, you know how the internet can be like, I need answers to everything. I need to know how this works and I need this debunked. But I think the majority of people are looking at the episode as it is, accepting the ambiguity. And like you and me, we love it for the reason it exists. We're not trying to like pick apart everything, or we don't need answers to everything, because that kind of defeats the point of the episode.
No, I completely agree. And yeah, links here we go. Go follow our social medias, where you'll find out about the next episode, which I'm trying to keep to a schedule. It's on Tuesdays. We do Doctor Who. We've got the Acolyte starting tomorrow, where George is going to be on stream. He is actually there tonight at the opening doodah.
Lucky bastard.
Absolutely deceiving. But
I think we're both on the same page where it's just like I applied for a ticket like for that screening, and then got refused, saying it was full, and then everyone else got in, and I'm like, okay, I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter in the slightest.
We've also got reviews out for very same things. We got our Furiosa review. I saw that this weekend as well. And you can follow us on our links in the description via our Linktree link to our Facebook, Instagram, Letterboxd, and Twitter, where you'll be able to kind of keep up to date with any of the videos that are coming out, and more Doctor Who content, as that seems to be one of kind of the things we're doing on the channel at the moment. And before we go, of course, I'm going to advertise, your stuff as well. You were talking about X-Men. I haven't actually seen the X-Men series yet. I need to go back and watch it. I haven't seen the original X-Men animated series. Do I need to watch that before going into this, or is it kind of a light entry?
I mean, I watched bits. I say this in the video anyway, but like I watched bits and pieces of X-Men the animated series when I was a kid, but wasn't like a massive. I was more of a Spider-Man the animated series kid. But I went into X-Men '97 fairly blind, only with the knowledge of the stuff I watched as a kid, and I followed it perfectly fine, as long as you know who the X-Men are and who these characters are, and that you love them as they are. You'll be perfectly fine. It's honestly one of the best shows of single seasons of a show I've seen in a long time. Like, it's phenomenal.
I will add it to the list of shows that I need to watch.
They're very quick. It's very quick to get through.
Yeah, I assumed it would be. Anyway, thank you ever so much for coming on. Always a pleasure to have you on here on the channel. And thank you ever so much, everyone, for watching. I'll see you next week for Doctor Who, and we will see you on the next video in general. Thank you.